All right, so Trump has officially been found guilty. Big surprise here, obviously. I mean, it's New York, right? I mean, I think we all kind of guessed it at this point, especially when Biden, of course, held a press conference right outside the courthouse. Because, of course, Biden had nothing to do with this. The Biden administration had nothing at all to do with this absolute witch hunt against Trump, but they're going to hold a press conference literally right outside the courthouse where he's being tried for a non-crime. And we should really make this very apparent. I would like to be able to say what it is they found him guilty of. The big issue here is they haven't really found him guilty of anything, actually. They never actually said what the underlying crime was. Oh, sorry about that. Never said what the underlying crime was. So they said that he was paying money out in order to hide some underlying crime. That's how they got this bumped up to a felony, mind you, because originally the idea of them messing with business records, that's a misdemeanor. It's a misdemeanor, and it's actually beyond the point where they can actually press charges. But they upgraded it to a felony because they said that it was to cover up a higher level of crime. The issue is they never said what that crime was. And more importantly, which is absolutely insane, is that the judge told the jury, you can find him guilty so long as you all think there was a crime, but you don't have to agree on what the crime actually is, which is, I don't even know how to even begin to say this, because that is the most insane thing ever, that you would actually tell a jury that you don't have to agree on guilty of what. We'll just combine your votes and say, we'll just say he's guilty just cuz, I guess, because they never said what his underlying crime was during the trial. Make this very clear. They never said what it was. In fact, when the Trump defense team tried to pull election experts to prove that election interference itself was not an underlying crime that he committed, as well as, of course, talking about the fact that the Federal Election Commission decided not to press charges against Trump, the judge threw that out saying, well, that's not what you're on trial for. Yet then, of course, when the prosecution makes their final case, they tell the jury, hey, if you believe he committed this offense, then vote guilty. Yet, of course, Trump's team was not allowed to even defend that position whatsoever. This whole thing, this whole just web is absolutely crazy when you really sit down and look at it, because it's one of these cases where none of it makes any sense. You have a misdemeanor that is beyond the point of which you can try someone for. It's beyond a statute of limitation. You have the main witness, a prostitute, and a convicted liar. One of the that's going to be both Stormy Daniels, who of course has said she has had sex, of course, for money. I'm going to label that as a prostitute, as well as Trump's ex-lawyer, who admitted on the stand to committing felony grand larceny, I guess. He stole thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars from Trump. He admitted to this on the stand. He's admitting to multiple felonies while saying, but trust me on this one. Mind you, of course, in the past, he's already been caught lying about other things, and these are your two star witnesses for your case. You add on top of that the fact that the judge in this case, his daughter, is a political activist who helps a political consultant campaign. Her company, and her company has raised millions upon millions of dollars thanks to this case as well. And not to mention the fact that these cases are supposed to be handed out at random to these judges, yet apparently this particular judge has gotten 3 Trump-related cases all in a row. And I wonder how that happens. So everything here is obviously absolutely insane, as you would expect for a Banana Republic-style prosecution. None of it has to make sense because we don't live in a country of laws anymore. We live in a country of power. And I've said for a long time, according to the left, all that matters is power. That's all that ever matters. Look at how they define racism. All right, look at how they define racism. We on the right, as well as most people in the middle, as well as what I would say anyone with common sense, says racism is you being bigoted against someone strictly because of the race they are. Right? Pretty self-explanatory. That can take any form whatsoever. Just if you're a bigot towards people of a different race simply because of their race, you're a racist. The left does not see it that way. No, the left, because they believe in no truth but power, they believe that racism can only exist if you have power over the group that you're bigoted towards. That's why they claim that you can't be racist towards white people. That's how they claim you can't be sexist towards men. That's how they claim that you can't be bigoted towards Christians, because these are the groups who, of course, always have been in power. They believe in they believe in power and nothing else. They believe that there is no truth but power, right? Because of that, it doesn't matter what this case, what the defense presents. It doesn't matter what Trump says. It doesn't matter the facts of the case. All that matters is he's their political rival and he needs to be stopped. That's it. That is absolutely it. And of course, they've been very scared recently. I mean, Trump is holding rallies over in the Bronx of all places and pulling in, thousands of people out there. He's having rallies in New Jersey that rival what Obama was able to pull in at his height. I mean, these are some serious events here that the Democrats are definitely worried about right now. Especially when Biden is as bad as he's been. I mean, inflation out of control, of course. Eggs around here cost about, $3 for a dozen, which is absolutely insane when you think about the fact I was paying less than $1 for a dozen under Trump. Now, I have 2 kids, so we buy a lot of groceries, and we're talking just even the basics are costing us damn near $200 at this point. And that might last for a couple weeks, and then we have to go get more. And again, that's just us eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches most days. I mean, inflation's absolutely insane. And then, of course, you have the price of gas just skyrocketing. You have World War III popping up like crazy. It's no wonder that they're now scared of the fact that, frankly, a flawed candidate like Trump, and I will gladly say he's a very flawed candidate. I did not vote for him in the primaries during 2016. All right, I voted Ted Cruz. Now, I know a lot of people might hate Ted Cruz, but listen, I still like the guy. If I had my pick, I would probably have picked Ramaswamy for now, right? If it was strictly up to me who the Republicans could nominate, I would probably say Ramaswamy. But I'm not going to sit there and be deluded enough to think that Trump didn't do a good job. He did a fantastic job while president. I mean, we finally, for the first time basically in my entire life, I mean, I'm only 30 years old. So for the first time that I can remember in my lifetime, we had peace in the Middle East. Something that everyone thought was going to be a complete fiction. Obama struggled for, what was it, over 4 or 5 years trying to stop ISIS. And Trump, 1 year, ISIS defeated. Oh, you had Russia invading Ukraine under Obama, mind you. What happened? Oh, well, we sold Russia more nukes is what we did. We ended up selling them more, what was it? I think Hillary had the giant red reset button that her and Putin pressed saying, we're going to reset the relations on U.S. and Russia. And then they sold a bunch of uranium. Under Trump, what do we have? Okay, they stopped going into Ukraine. They stepped back from the world stage quite a bit. And guess what else? North Korea also stepped back. China stepped back from Taiwan. We actually had a lot of peace going on. The UAE started recognizing Israel as a country, which recognizing them even existing is a massive improvement from where it was before. All of this was under Trump. And now all of that's been, of course, destroyed under Biden. So they are definitely fearful of what's to come here. But again, so he has officially been found guilty. The sentencing, and now here's the crazy part. The sentencing is going to be 4 days prior to the Republican National Convention. 4 days prior. They could have picked any time. No, 4 days prior. Now, why did they pick 4 days prior? Probably because they want to, for one, just interfere with the schedule at the bare minimum. Two, what happens if they say he has to serve some jail time? Now, I'm not sure how exactly that would work, but it stops him from going to the RNC. I'm not exactly sure what the rules are with the RNC. Does he have to actually be there to accept the nomination? Because in the past, that has been something that you're supposed to do. That you're supposed to actually you have to go there to accept the nomination, or else they could move on to someone else. Could they be trying to interfere with that? I don't know. What I will say, though, and this might be somewhat surprising, I think actually all this is going to be a blessing in disguise. I really do. And what you see right now on Twitter, what you see going on Twitter right now is just a flood of people putting, of course, like upside down American flags saying, the country's in distress. People constantly commenting. They're doing the max donations allowed to donate to Donald Trump's campaign, which I might be mistaken, but I believe is like 1,300, somewhere around that range. Don't quote me on that, but it's not a ton. But when you have a bunch of people all maxing that out, that's a huge, huge thing. But you have tons of just a show of support. I'm even seeing Democrats who I know personally, people who are registered Democrats say like, wow, this is absolutely crazy that this is actually happening. Any honest Democrat can look at this and say, I might not like Trump, but this is total bogus, right? This is a banana republic style conviction here. It makes absolutely no sense of how it's going down. So even there's Democrats out there who are putting out messages saying, this is absolutely crazy. I can't support this. Now, what's funny is you had, and I'm just going to pull myself up full screen for a second here. You had the media at first saying, oh no, the prosecution's making so many mistakes. They're making so many mistakes here. And it looks like Trump's going to walk free. And they had no problem saying this for a while, that Trump's going to walk free and that the trial is basically what it is. It's a total sham. But of course, now they're doing their victory laps. So pull this up right here. This is MSNBC, and of course MSNBC is the funniest of all the news stations just because of how over the top they are and their and their delusions. But let's go ahead and play this real quick.
Authority was we've been holding our breath as a country for a long time, waiting for the cavalry to arrive in the form of the rule of law. And it did arrive today, and it's a majestic day. And we are rightly saying the system worked like clockwork, and the jury was diligent and attentive, and the judge was firm and gentle. All those things are right, but their abilities to do that while hailstorms in the form of Trump and his supporters railed on all sides of them was precisely because the judge is cloaked in a robe, which is to say the rule of law. His authority was not simply his personality or charisma. It was the system that he embodied, and that at least in
Jesus, man, tie your hair back and drop to your knees for the dude. I mean, I swear to God, I've never seen... Like, I remember when Obama was around, and man, they would do whatever they could for him, right? But that sort of just, oh, he was so strong, yet so gentle. This is what MSNBC's running. This is what, not tons of people, this is what a good amount of people, though, are seeing. No one is hearing this, of course. The judge was yelling at witnesses. All right, witnesses were taking the stand, and when they said answers to the prosecution's questions that the judge didn't like because it favored Trump, he started yelling at the witnesses and told them to leave, told everyone to get out of the courthouse. He was so upset at them for this dude is not gentle by any means. This dude is corrupt as hell. All right, this dude, again, mysteriously has been given all three major cases related to Trump, all in the New York area. And mysteriously been given all three of them. His daughter works as a political consultant for Democrats and is raising millions upon millions upon millions of dollars from all of this, as well as he himself is a Democrat donor. And this is, of course, a area of New York that they got their jury pool from that, Trump had like 5% support in? And he knows here, 34 counts. 34 counts. How do you have 34 counts on one bribery charge? And that's because literally every single record of the transaction he made to his lawyer, they decided to make as an additional count, which is very important here. So when they say, oh, he has 34 felony convictions on his record. No, he doesn't. He was not found guilty on really 34 crimes here. He's found guilty on one crime that isn't even a crime. And they just split it up between any piece of paper that shows that transaction on it. So again, the crime they're alleging here is that him giving money to his lawyer, who gave money to Stormy Daniels to buy her story about her sleeping with Trump, which again, Trump has denied his entire time the story's been out. Now, do I believe he actually slept with her? Yeah, probably, to be perfectly honest. I mean, look at how he got his current wife, right? I mean, he's cheated on his ex-wives before. It wouldn't be too outrageous to say he slept with Stormy Daniels. Now, is everything about what Stormy Daniels said actually happened? I doubt that too, right? Mostly because her story changes left and right too. She made the case in the courtroom, all of a sudden saying that he forced himself on her. She's turning this to a whole Me Too thing, which is completely against what she said in every single interview prior to this. So we got, at the very least, she's an absolute liar as well as a whore, right? I mean, I don't know what more, lying whore, right? I don't know what more you need to hear than that to actually say, well, maybe we shouldn't take her testimony seriously. And I know people are going to say, oh, you can't just discount her all because she's a porn star. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I'm sorry, we totally can, all right? These are career paths that are filled with nothing but degeneracy. Why wouldn't I assume that you wouldn't be degenerate in other aspects of your life? I'm sorry, I'm just not going to. If you say you're a porn star, I'm going to assume you have moral failings outside of that as well. All right, that's like someone telling me, yeah, I'm a crack addict, but you know what? I make for a great babysitter. No, you probably don't, okay? I don't trust you on that. I don't know why I should. If a porn star says, you know what, I'm on OnlyFans and I sell my body for money and, sell this illusion to people, but you know what, I'm totally truthful when I'm going to be on the stand. Yeah, bullshit. I'm sorry. I'm not going to trust you on that. I just don't. So you have Stormy Daniels, just a provable lying whore. Just let's be real here. She's a whore, and she was lying on stand, or she was lying in every other interview up to that point. Either way, she's lying. And then, of course, you have Trump's lawyer and all the lies he's told up to this point. So he's been found guilty of other lies he was telling to the feds, as well as the fact of he admitted to lying to Trump, as well as stealing over $10,000, up to possibly even over $100,000 from Trump, which is a massive felony charge if they actually went after him, which of course they won't. And these are the people we're supposed to listen to. And of course, who MSNBC is actually believing here. This will probably backfire for them, don't get me wrong. But it's gonna be pretty funny to see these next few days as to how the media tries to cover for this, because they already are, okay? They're already trying to cover for this in so many ways. So we have right here from NBC, false right-wing reports about Trump trial jury instructions that that fuel threats against the judge. False reporting and social media commentary about the jury instructions and Trump's hush money trial has spurred calls for assassination of the judge overseeing the case. Okay, first off, you're online. Assassinations are a dime a dozen. All right, you can find a YouTuber with like 10,000 subs out there, and he probably has at least one death threat in his inbox. So just saying that someone online called for it, I mean, for one, it could be a bot for all you know. I'm just, come on. And two, do you know how many communists I can find on Reddit calling for the assassination of Trump daily? Like, there was a whole thread about this, actually talking about the morality of if they actually did it, okay? None of them are going to get a knock on the door from the FBI. So get out of here with that. But again, they're so scared of this, they're actually now starting to write these insane articles. And what I wonder, of course, is who's actually reading these articles. That's the first question. I really wonder who's actually reading these. But so let's go ahead and just start this up, because this is, to me, it's really funny reading what the left wing says, because it shows just how, I don't know if it's, I don't know if it shows how much they're willing to lie or just how dumb they really are at heart. Like, I'm not sure which one is actually true here. I want to say they're probably just liars, but at the same time, that would equate, that would mean that they're also kind of intelligent. I don't know. I think it's probably, I don't know. I think this is, they know something's wrong. They're smart enough to know that, oh God, the judge made a mistake. We need to run cover. So I'm just going to call them liars for this. False reports about the jury instructions in former Donald Trump's hush money trial have been spreading across right-wing media, leading to threats against the judge overseeing the case. Several conservative news personalities, including some affiliated with Fox News, falsely claimed the judge, Juan Merchant, as one Fox News anchor put it on a viral post on X, told the jury that they do not need to unanimity to convict Trump. That's not true, Merchant instructed the jury on Wednesday that they must conclude unanimously that defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, adding they need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were. Then you don't have to be unanimous. You can't sit there and say, well, we all agree he did something, but we just don't know what. That doesn't count for guilty. It just doesn't. All right, let's really just highlight this. Do not need to be unanimous as to what those unlawful means are. So, trying to think the best way to put this. 4 of them can believe that Trump violated an election law. 4 of them can believe that he violated some other law, and the other 4 can believe a third law. If that's the case and they all can't agree on one law he's violated, then he's never been found guilty of the law, of breaking that law, which means he can't then be found guilty of breaking that law. Because that's the thing. Again, this is not about the law itself that's being broken here. This is about him breaking the law. But if you can't agree on what law was being broken in the first place, then you cannot, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And anyone with common sense will understand. Anyone who either A, has common sense, or B, at least has some understanding as to why we have the judicial system we do, or why we're supposed to have the judicial system that we do. It's supposed to be difficult to convict. That is the point of our system. The point of our system is not to convict as many people as possible and have a high conviction rate for the prosecution. No, the point of it is to make it difficult to convict. And this is one of the ways you're supposed to make it difficult to convict, by saying you all have to agree. All 12 people have to agree on guilt. Not one person can disagree. All of you have to agree. You all have to agree on what crime was being committed. And even then, of course, there's issues. There's issues when it comes to what area you end up getting. There's issues now with the age of social media. How do you sit there and have a non-biased jury for any national case? I don't see how you do that. Who doesn't know Donald Trump and who doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump? And that's one of the reasons, again, why presidents have never been brought to trial like this before. Because it's impossible to have an impartial jury. It is impossible to have an impartial jury when it comes to an elected official like that. It's why what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to impeach the president and convict him in the Senate, and after that, they can go through, of course, the list of crimes that you want to convict him for. There's a separate process for the president. Excuse me. There's a separate process for the president because we cannot have an impartial jury any other way. It's not possible. It just isn't. There's nowhere in this country that you will find 12 people who don't know who Donald Trump is and have an opinion on him. And if you can't have an impartial jury, then you can't have a unbiased trial. There is no way you can bring it to trial. There just isn't. You can't have a fair day in court. And if you can't have a fair day in court, there shouldn't be a trial in the first place. Again, there was no crime being committed here. The lawyer even admitted to the fact that he was defrauding Trump to the tune of almost over $100,000 at the max case. This will probably go up for appeal pretty quickly, and obviously it should probably get him a lot of donations, which should be exciting to see. It should definitely be exciting to see. But that's not all. So let's see here. So the Biden administration is doubling down on this tactic too, okay? So they're doubling down on this idea of how they're of using the legal system to get what they want. And that's a very important thing. You know, they know going through the standard traditional methods of obtaining power just isn't working because it's very easy to obstruct them, politically speaking, which is good. You know, again, that's how our system's supposed to work. It's supposed to be difficult for our elected representatives to oppress us. That's kind of how it's supposed to go. What they found is, of course, if they can control the judges, well, they can control everything else that's happening. So we have here, the Senate has confirmed the 200th federal judge under Biden as Democrats surpass Trump's pace. Now, one thing that Trump did very, very well is Trump got a ton of judges passed, and this was a huge, huge win for his administration, possibly the biggest he had. And I'm not just talking the Supreme Court, which the Supreme Court was probably the most important thing he did his entire presidency. Okay, that was probably the most important thing he did during his entire presidency. Though I'm not a big fan of Kavanaugh because he's kind of wishy-washy too much, but overall, 3 Supreme Court justices, I mean, come on, it was real good. But Trump, over his 4 years, did get around 200 judges appointed, and it was really good work. Like, it was really good work that they got done with that. And they were just churning them out like they should be. I mean, they were really trying to replace a lot of the Democrat judges that were out there. And the Democrats saw this as a threat and has learned, of course, their lesson and wants to institute more lawfare. So, of course, they're on pace to do the same. Now, why are they doing this? Well, it's because once they get control of cities, they can do stuff like this, like what happened in Chicago, where a woman assaulted a cop, stole a police car, ran the cop over. Look at that, runs the cop over. And the judge said, let's just acquit her because she was going through a psychotic episode and won't serve any jail time. You have some other judicial nominees over here who recommended for transgender inmates who were in jail for what's the word I can say on YouTube? Just assaulting women in inappropriate ways. That they should be allowed to request a transfer to a women's prison. Which is pretty crazy when you look at this. And this is actually in New York as well. Convicted for molesting a 9-year-old and a 17-year-old, as well as sending, inappropriate pictures of children, as well as other offenses. This person recommendation that the petitioner in these serious medical needs were being denied by keeping her in a men's facility. These are the people who Biden's pushing through. This is the kind of people who they're trying to get more of in our legal system. Because again, these people don't believe in truth. They don't believe in truth. They believe that power is all that matters. And so if they can obtain the power through any means possible, then they don't care. They understand that lawfare is a serious threat to people because, for one, the average person cannot fight lawfare. They just can't. There's an old saying, of course, that the process is the punishment. And that is very, very true in most cases. The process is the punishment. Doesn't matter if they think they can actually convict you. If they can waste your time for a year and cause you to spend thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, why wouldn't they? Sorry. Why wouldn't they? It still hurts you. It still hurts you, and they can usually try to get a plea deal from you because they know you don't want to go through this process. You have a job, you have kids, you have a wife. You don't want to sit there and be dealing with the courts for over a year. You financially can't afford it. You gotta take some kind of plea deal. Now, hopefully, more and more people will stop taking plea deals. For one, I think plea deals are utterly just reprehensible in the first place. The idea of a plea deal is coercing you into claiming you're guilty. It's fine when you say you're guilty of a crime, the judge will ask, confirm that you haven't been coerced in any way to say you're guilty. I would argue that when they say, hey, if you don't take this plea deal, we're going to put you in jail for 10 plus years extra, that is coercing you into taking the plea deal. And I get why we have them. We have them to try to make it easier to catch other criminals, right? Okay, you got the kingpin over here, and you sit there and give a plea deal to one of his lackeys saying, hey, we won't convict you so long as you turn against your boss. I get that that's the reason why, but I'm sorry, I do not think it still holds up to any constitutional merit. I just do not see it. Even if you want to try to make the argument, it helps more than it hurts, I would say in the long run, how many people are actually convicted by, how many, higher ups get convicted through the plea deal system versus how many innocent people get screwed over thanks to the plea deal system? I'd argue probably more people get screwed over than actually serious offenders get convicted. The courts are a dangerous thing. Here's a scary part here. Here's a scary part, and I'm just going to taste full screen anyway. Here's a scary part. What happens when people no longer trust that we have a just system in the courts? What happens? Well, we've seen what happens. You see what Black Lives Matter. Now, they're wrong, but they believe that they will not have a fair trial when they go to court. A lot of them believe this. And so when they start getting arrested, what do? They start fighting back, sometimes with lethal force. We don't want that. What we want to be able to tell people is, listen, if you're innocent, just let them arrest you. Go do what you have to do, get your lawyer, fight it in the courts. That's why we have the courts. You'll be judged by your peers, yada, yada, yada. What happens, though, when people do not believe this to be true anymore? It's going to get scary. All right, you're going to have people holding out saying, I'm not coming out here. I have my guns and I'm just going to stay put. You have a lot of standoffs. We had a standoff recently just in Charlotte here where 5 officers were shot. Now, I'm not sure as to all the details as to exactly what happened. I know they were serving a search warrant and the guy said no and shot him. Now, I heard it had something to do with gun charges or something, which makes me a bit iffy about how I feel about the cops in that situation, but I admit I did not delve too much into it. Point being, we don't want that happening. We don't want violence to be used. If there is a peaceful solution, we are morally obligated to take the peaceful path. That is what I truly, truly believe in. But at the same time, if someone is being brought in front of a court for, let's say, like the January 6th crap, where they're giving people 10 plus years for doing less than what, of course, the Democrats have been doing for years now, am I going to sit there and cry a tear when that person gets violent and harms someone trying to defend himself from going to jail? It's a tough choice. Again, I don't think the person would be right for doing so. I just do not think so. I think that there is a moral path. I think stuff like hunger strikes and stuff like that when you're in jail is a far better thing to do. Say, you know, you're going to starve me to death in here. That's going to be on your hands, basically. If you're going to do the whole, you know, suicide by cop thing, and do it in jail, man. I don't know. I don't like the idea of being violent yet. All right. I do not believe it is the proper course of action. I think there is a path of peaceful resistance still. As long as I believe that, I will not get violent. I do not ever, you know, we fantasize about violence quite a bit just as people in general, right? I mean, we play violent video games, we watch violent movies, we imagine ourselves in those situations. But man, when you look at history, and really look at history as to what happens in war, what happens especially in civil war. My God. I mean, big old Civil War book, Shelby Foote, fantastic, great. Yes, I have read it all. It is a long, long, long read. Read through stuff like this and then tell me you still want a civil war. It's not good. It's not a good thing. We want to avoid these things at all costs. My mistake. We want to avoid these things at all costs. These are very dangerous things to even be considering. And yet, the Democrats are pushing us further and further and further to this. And I'll ask this. Does anyone really think this election will, after it's done, there will not be some form of violence from it? Regardless of who wins? I mean, I would argue if Trump wins, I'm pretty sure that there will be an attempt on him. I truly believe that, and that scares me. I mean, sure, yeah, you made the argument, oh, well, then he becomes a martyr, and then, you know, our cause grows. I don't like that, all right? I get that would probably happen, obviously. I mean, look at throughout history, you know, assassinating a politician never works out in favor of the person who does it. But I won't be surprised if it happens. And that's scary. That is terrifying. And if Biden wins, you're going to tell me Republicans are going to sit down and allow Trump to be thrown in jail, which will probably be attempted if he loses. If Trump loses, they will probably try to put him behind bars for the rest of his life. You know, I didn't say this earlier, but technically, the max sentencing they can give him for the charges he got convicted with are over 130 years in jail. You're telling me they're not going to give him like 20? And at his age, obviously, he'll be lucky if he makes 10. You think Republicans will just sit down and allow that to happen? I mean, there are politicians. Yes, let's be real. The politicians will 100% sit down and let it happen. But do you think a lot of his supporters will? You think the MAGA movement will? Balkanization of this country might happen in our lifetimes. It really is a possibility. And that is something that 20-year-old me would never have imagined possible. I might have fantasized about the idea, but I never would imagine it to be actually possible. You know, if that might be the best case, right? Balkanization literally might be what needs to happen. That our country, it happens to all great empires. All great empires eventually break apart. Maybe we're due for it. Maybe it's our time to do so. Maybe we need to balkanize. Maybe we need to split off into, 2, 3, 4 different countries. Might be a good idea, actually. Because the thing is that even during the Civil War, now I've said this before in the past, but even during the Civil War, we all were still unified under some basic principles, North and South. Right? Now, there was, of course, the big issue like slavery that was going on. Major issue, obviously. Well, what's today's equivalent? Probably abortion would be my guess. You still have the denying of rights of certain individuals based on, where they are now. Abortion is probably the closest thing we have right now to something like slavery. Okay, so we have that one. That's about all. I mean, for the most part, they had that and trade. Those were the two big issues during the Civil War, tariffs and slavery. Mostly for the everyday person, it was about tariffs when it came to the South, but of course, the elites in the South were more concerned about losing their slaves. I'm not going to go through a whole history lesson with that, but the point is, at the end of the day, they were all still Christians. They all still believed in a basic form of government. They all believed in the basic rule of law. They all believed in the idea of a republic for the most part. I mean, you look at the Confederate States of America, they replicated basically the United States Constitution. They really did. It wasn't that different. There were some small differences, but it wasn't that different. They still had something to unify on. They still had something they all believed in. But what do we believe in now that we can all unify under? I mean, even flying an American flag has become a controversial thing. You can find tons of people online who think that if someone flies an American flag, they're a white supremacist. I mean, that's how far we've fallen. Are we unified on religion? Hell no. We have nothing when it comes to unifying of religion. Are we unified on, how the legal system should work? Of course not. Look what's happening to Trump. Look what's happening to the Jan 6 protesters. Even the ones who were violent don't deserve what they've been going through. Even the ones who were violent don't deserve 10, 12 years in jail for their offenses. We don't have any underlining values in this country anymore. Nothing that I can sit there and go, it used to be you could go to any part of this country and there's a certain level of values that we all shared. We don't have that anymore. What we do have that is, if you're in Texas, the majority of Texans have similar values. If you're in Florida, the majority of Floridians have a similar set of values. If you go to New York, they're idiots, but you know what? They have a similar set of values. Portlanders have a similar set of values. Californians, there's a big Republican contingency over there in the countrysides, but in the cities at least, it's a very similar set of values. But what do us on the right have in common with those on the left anymore? Because I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it at all. It's scary times. It is very, very scary times. So, speaking of actually flying flags and people finding flags to be wrong, you might have not heard this. Justice Alito, I'm going to try to find the picture here. Alito was flying a flag that apparently, I didn't realize this, is now considered like an absolutely evil, terrible flag to fly. Now, funny thing is, I'm not sure whose picture this is, but this shows the flag at least. This right here is an appeal to heaven flag. This was a flag during the revolution of our country. It's also flying here in San Francisco, who after it suddenly became apparently a sign of white supremacy and Christian fascism and all this stuff, San Francisco silently went, oh, we'll take that down real quick. But the Appeal to Heaven flag is a very classic flag. It's a flag that was designed around the time of the Revolution, before the Revolution, and was flown by ships that were under the orders of George Washington. It's a major part of American history. It is really basically a brother or sister with the Don't Tread on Me flag. It is basically the same exact general principle here, right? Well, Justice Alito was actually flying that over his at one of his houses he had, and the media has gone crazy over it. So let me just pull this up. MSNBC has this article on here. The history of the flag at Justice Alito's beach house makes its presence more chilling. Americans cannot be kept in the dark on how this radical, anti-democratic symbol came to fly outside of his house. This anti-democratic symbol that flew over troops who fought in the Revolutionary War. Again, it's because they don't respect the history or founding of this country. They don't consider that some great group of people whatsoever, so they have no problem about absolutely destroying their legacy by trying to burn their flag, right? So, here's this MSNBC article. It gets really funny here, I'll tell you what. News that an Appeal to Heaven flag was seen flying outside the beach house of the Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito marks the second report in the space of a week that a symbol used by Jan 6 insurrectionists, you gotta say insurrectionist, right? You can't just call it what it was seen outside of his residence. According to the report from New York Times, which has not been independently verified by MSNBC or NBC News, the flag was photographed flying at the home on multiple occasions between July and September of 2023. Alito has remained silent about how and why the flag came to fly on his property, but the more one knows about the background of this flag, the more chilling its presence at the House becomes. This flag, which bears the words, "Appeal to Heaven," which already scares the hell out of the Democrats, and an image of the green pine tree is unmistakable emblem for the influential segment of Christian nationalists who claim the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, contrary to God's will, and that the believers of spiritual warfare is essential to restoring God's anointed leader to this rightful office. Who the hell talks like that? I've met people who basically are Christian nationalists, and not a single one of them has said that Donald Trump was just anointed by God himself. I've never heard that uttered in my life, and I know people who would consider themselves Christian nationalists. I have never heard that uttered. This is how Democrats write fictional Republicans, right? It was one of the numerous Christian nationalist flags in our iconography carried by Trump supporters on Jan 6 and the Jericho March, a series of prayer rallies that were like jet fuel for the insurrection. The Jericho March featured right-wing evangelicals and Catholic speakers alongside militants such as militants such as Alex Jones. They're calling him a militant. No, he can't just be some kooky news host who's right more often than MSNBC is. No, you can't call him that. A militant. Wow. Trump's disgraced National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Oath Keepers founder Stuart Rhodes, now serving 18-year prison sentence for seditious conspiracy and other crimes. Absolute bogus charges, by the way. Again, I will say this. Anyone who's been prosecuted on January 6th, even if they were committing a crime, the government intentionally withheld evidence that could have been used in their defense. That is illegal to do, and every one of them, even the ones who were violent and should be in jail, frankly have already served the amount they should be serving with how long they've been locked up in jail. Even the ones who should be in jail should be completely just be completely acquitted on all charges, just because I guess it won't be acquitted, right? It would be blanking on the word all of a sudden. Why am I blanking on the word? It's late. It's late, y'all. Pardoned. I don't know why. I couldn't think of that. They should be completely pardoned for the crimes that they did commit because, again, the government withheld evidence that could have been used in their defense. As well, the government still has yet to answer who opened the damn magnetic doors, okay? So I'm all for them all being released. An appeal to heaven flag originated in the revolutionary times as a call to take up arms against unjust rulers who ignored the pleas of their citizens. But after years of a historical relic in 2015, the flag was popularized by Dutch Sheets, an influential figure in the New Apostolic Reformation. I really don't know much about the New Apostolics. Strange enough, I actually did go to a New Apostolic church one time. It was strange. I was dating a girl who was an apostolic. I no idea what was going on there. They really put a lot of emphasis, it seemed, on the Holy Spirit, like very, very heavily on just the Holy Spirit during the one I went to. I don't know. I'm obviously not New Apostolic, so I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys are great. I have no idea what y'all believe, to be perfectly honest. I went to one service, all was kind of different. Never went back, actually. So, but I did go to one. I didn't see anything at that one in particular that I thought was too terribly insane, to be honest. The founder, C. Peter Wagner, drew on the existing strands and threads of the charismatic Christianity to create a powerful network of self-proclaimed apostles and prophets who claimed to be leading a revolution in Christianity. Okay. Their adherence to New Apostolics, NAR's adherence to as religious scholars and MSNBC columnist Athena Butler has written, believe the government should be run by Christians in order to cleanse the world for Christ's coming. They promote spiritual warfare, including the spiritual mapping, as well as spiritual mapping to identify demonic forces in communities, and power encounters like exorcisms to cleanse not only people, but cities and communities. So, yeah. I'm not really all with that. I'll be perfectly honest. I take a more the cosmic clockmaker kind of theory of things, where it's like I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I'm a Christian. Make that very clear. I think he works through reason and logic though, so I'm not big on the whole demonic forces controlling communities. I like calling things demonic because I think it's funny. I don't actually think a demon is actually possessing people. I think exorcisms, I don't know. I haven't seen anything make me believe in, possession or anything like that yet. I maybe it does exist. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to hear it out, but I've yet to hear anything that has convinced me of it, at least. Point is, and you're telling me that is more crazy than someone saying that a man who's been convicted of multiple crimes against women should be, being put into a woman's prison. You're telling me a man in a dress is a woman and you want to insult these people? I mean, come on, give me a break. Sheets is a prominent prophet. I'm sorry, that kind of made me laugh. Prophet in the world of Nar. That sounds weird to say. He claims to receive dreams and visions from God about world events, including the 2020 election and its aftermath. According to what does any of this have to what does this have to do with Justice Alito and mostly his wife flying a flag outside their house? What does it? And this is what they do. This is exactly what they do. They build up their own fictional enemy to fight against. Because obviously, there's nothing they can really point to that he's done here other than fly a damn flag that's from the revolution. And they say, oh, well, it was used by insurrectionists during January 6th. Oh, no. This is literally the Hitler drank water, therefore water is bad argument. Oh my God, you're saying people who did some wrong things also liked this? And what does the symbol actually stand for? It stands for the revolution. All right? That's all it is. It's not complicated here. In fact, here's a funny thing. And the John Adams HBO series, which is a fantastic HBO series, by the way, one of HBO's best ever miniseries they've ever done. What do you know? Well, there's that evil, terrible symbol of Christian fascism. Now, of course, they'll argue that during this time it was okay, but now it's become a symbol of Christian fascism. They were way more into stuff, what you would consider like, what they would consider Christian fascism. They were way more like that back then than they are now. So I'm just going to put that out there. We did have blasphemy laws in this country for a while. I mean, come on. It is so damn tiring to see. But it's also good to remind ourselves just how stupid and insane these people are. Again, I don't know how much of it's them being stupid and how much of them, or how much of it is them intentionally being dishonest in order to break apart the fabric of this country. Now, I don't think some random writer at MSNBC is intelligent enough to find a way to break down the fabric of this country. I think it's more of a emotional thing of they have a lot of hatred in their heart for the country, therefore anything associated with it, they're just going to rant and rave about just cuz. I don't think they have any more underlying motive than that. But again, this is a symbol of the founding of this country. A Supreme Court justice was flying it, and somehow this is a story. Somehow this is a story. And they're using it as a way to say he should recuse himself from the some of the January 6th stuff coming up to the Supreme Court. Saying, oh, you flew a flag, they flew. Therefore, they also flew American flags. Now, what about the Democrat justices who are flying American flags? Should they recuse themselves? But the reality is, let's be real, almost none of them probably are flying an American flag, right? I mean, come on. Oh, boy. Let me pull up my... Now, and so a little bit of funny news here. Joe Biden just said Kamala Harris was a diversity hire. He actually admitted to it. He actually said Kamala Harris was a diversity hire as well as multiple other people in his administration was. So here we go right here.
To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country. And starts at the top with the Vice President. To me, the values of diversity.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. And it starts with our Vice President. I mean, come on. He says at the beginning when he was running that he was going to pick a black woman as his VP. Excuse me. He said from the get-go that he was going to pick a black woman as his VP. So, I mean, she already was a diversity hire. We all knew it, but he never said it this directly. That it's DEI hiring starts with the vice president. And of course, saying this is for his entire administration. This is part of why I'm not entirely sure all the fumbles that the administration has had. I'm not sure how much of it is intentional versus how much of it is just them being a bunch of idiots. Because when you hire people based on the color of someone's skin rather than the content of their character, you're not going to get good people. I mean, you see that with the press secretary. Was it Jean Pont? How do you pronounce her name? Either way, she's a complete imbecile. She doesn't know how to answer any questions whatsoever. She contradicts herself all the time, as well as contradicts Biden all the time. She's a terrible press secretary. Jen Psaki, she was actually good at what she did. As much as I don't like her, she was at least good at what she did. So it's no wonder why she got a job in media pretty soon after. But Jean Pond, again, I can't say her name. I forget exactly how it's pronounced. But point is, she's not good. She's terrible at answering questions. She's terrible about just covering for Biden, which admittedly I don't know how you're supposed to, but there's better ways of doing it. I'm just saying. But it's not just her, of course. You have, I think it's the Secretary of Health isn't it like a man who thinks it's a woman, right? Like, is that Secretary of Health, I believe? And of course you have Pete Buttigieg over there as Transportation Secretary. Oh, yeah, doing a really, fantastic job over there, right? I mean, you think of all people, he would actually be good at. No, I'm not gonna make that joke. Nope. Not gonna. That's too low. Point is, you think he would be really good when it comes to stuff involving trains and stuff, right? I mean, what was it? How many trains have flipped over right now? How many? You had that ship that took down a bridge. Planes falling out of the sky, basically. Absolute insanity. And this is what happens when you don't hire people who are the best position for the job and instead just hire people based on characteristics that don't matter. I mean, he literally looked at Pete Buttigieg, who did absolutely nothing. He's a mayor of a small town, middle of nowhere, barely was on anyone's radar whatsoever. And because he likes it in the butt, what do you know? He's a national figure. I mean, let's be real. That's the entire reason why people know him. They don't know him because he did anything worthwhile. They know him because of who he likes to bang. And so you put him as the transportation secretary and look at what's happened. Come on, man. It's... Oh boy, we have a funny country at times. We have a funny country at times. It just... And the thing is, Biden's the incompetence of the Biden administration, of course, is not stopped there. You also have the fact of he's not on the Ohio ballot, all because they didn't go through the proper procedure, and so now they didn't make it in time to get on the Ohio ballot. Now they might extend it. People are pointing out the fact that he's not on the Ohio ballot by this point, therefore he's not going to be on it at all. Ohio is one of the counties that's like one of the first ones that you have to register for, and they've done that for almost 10 years now, and they've extended it almost every single election cycle. So it's not really surprising if they do that again. They shouldn't do it, but they've done it for every other election cycle. Expect it to happen again here. Ah, man. So there was one more thing I did want to talk about a little bit, but I might save this for another week because it's kind of it's not really pertaining to anything happening today. And you know, my dad's normally in these videos with me, so doing these live streams as well. So I might wait to play that till he gets on. Maybe not next week. I'll be gone next week, but a week after. Besides that, though, you know, we live in a hell of a country, guys. We really do. And I don't know what comes next. I don't know what's going to come next. I expected him to get convicted. I did not expect it, 5 years ago for it to get this far. I didn't expect this insanity to start happening like it has. The amount of lawfare that's being presented is absolutely terrifying, like I said before. On the positive sides, though, Trump is gaining a lot of supporters because of it. People are seeing the Democrats for what they are finally, and that is exciting. That is definitely exciting. Either way, I think that's it for me tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and log off. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Hope to see you again real soon, and peace.